Stoicism. I don't know if any of you have heard of it, but there is a book, in fact, I was reading recently called How to Be a Stoic by someone called Massimo Pigliucci, and he was giving the stages of it. And the center part of what Stoicism is the idea of the dichotomy of control. Basically, they asked the following question, the Stoics, and they were around like 100 years after Christ. The question they ask is, can I change the situation? This is the first question. Can I change the situation? If I can change the situation, okay, let me change it with my hand, whatever the situation may be. And if I can't change the situation, then I have to let go, I have to leave it. They don't say in the hands of Allah, or I have to leave it to Allah. But that's what we would say. And in fact, that's what the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ told us in the famous hadith where the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, Al-mu'min al-qawi khayrun wa ahab ila Allah min al-mu'min al-da'if wa fi kulli khayr, that the strong believer is better and more beloved to Allah than the weak believer, and in both of them is good. The hadith continues, and at one point of the hadith it says, وَلَا تَقُلْ لَوْ أَنِّي فَعَلْتُ كَذَا وَكَذَا. Don't say, if only I had done such and such a thing. وَقُلْ قَدَّرَ اللَّهُ وَمَا شَاءَ فَعَلْ. Instead say that Allah has willed it to be and it has come to be. So the philosophy, if you like, that we live our lives by as Muslims is the first question we ask is, can we change the situation with our hands? Whether it's in Palestine or the Uyghurs or the Rohingyas or the Kashmir Muslims, whoever it may be or whatever it may be. It may be a calamity in your own life, in your own personal life. Someone might be sick in your life. It might be a parent of yours. It might be a child of yours. It might be a spouse. It might be a friend. It might be your education. It might be marriage. It might be divorce. It might be whatever it might be. The first question you have to ask yourself is simply, can I change it? In fact, it's so interesting now. In the United Kingdom, they have something called cognitive behavioral therapy. I'm not sure if you guys have it here, but it's basically like a psychological, it's a therapy, it's a kind of therapy. And they have this idea inside it. If you do the course, if you're suffering from anxiety, okay, in the UK or in other places, they have CBT, which is cognitive behavior, and this is what they'll say to you. They will say to you, what is your problem? You'll say such and such, this is my problem. Such and such is my problem. They say, fine, if this is your problem, first question, can you change this situation? Practically. If you can change it, then try and change it. Try your best to change it. I know it sounds dead simple here. But it's like everyone has come, humanity has come to the same conclusion. Okay? This is not specifically and only an Islamic concept. However, Islam makes this concept so much more objective and true. And I'll explain how in a second. Can you change the situation with your hand? In the case of Palestine, for example, what can we do? Okay, boycott, all right. Debate, okay, no problem. Protest, yeah, let's do it. Charity, why not? Why not? Okay. Have we done as much as we can? Probably not. We can do more of the same things again and again. All right, let's do that. Let's be consistent with it. After we've done that now, there comes a point where we say we can't really do anything more. We don't control the armies. And even those who do control the armies can't do that much. You'll be surprised. I mean, some countries may be able to, with very big armies, especially next to the Palestine. I will give you that. They can, actually. They can change. And they are shamed, actually. I'll be honest with you. There's no excuse for those ones. Well, they're actually part of the problem, but that's a different issue altogether. They are the ones who are, you know, let's put those in. The first question is, can I change something? Okay, I can't. Or I can. If you can't, then this is where qadar Qada and Qadar comes in. Okay, everything now is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is where, for me, one of my favorite hadiths comes in, which is a beautiful hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, where he says that عَجَبًا لِأَمْرِ الْمُؤْمِنِ, wondrous is the affair of the believer. إِنَّ أَمْرَهُ كُلَّهُ لَهُ خَيْرٌ, that all of the affair is good. And interesting, he says, وَلَيْسَ ذَلِكَ وَلَيْسَ ذَاكَ لِأَحَدٍ إِلَّا لِلْمُؤْمِنِ, that you won't find this the case except for the mu'min, the believer. Why? In أَصَابَتْهُ صَرَّاء, صَبَرَ وَشَكَرَ, he was thankful and patient. فَكَانَ خَيْرًا لَهُ, and it was good for him. And if bad things happen to him, he's also patient, and then it was good for him. Which, this shows you something. It shows you that for the Muslim, everything is good. So long as what? You have Iman. So long as the prerequisite is Islam and Iman and faith, then everything that happens to you is actually good for you. In a sense, it's good for you. وَعَسَىٰ أَن تَكْرَهُ شَيْئًا وَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ, you could hate something, but it's good for you. Someone will argue, how could it be good? How can you tell me it's good when 40,000 people have been killed in Palestine? What's good about that? The response is, from the Islamic perspective, بَلْ أَحْيَاءٌ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ يُرْزَقُونَ, that they are martyrs being provided for by Allah directly. Objectively speaking, no one can say that those 40,000 innocents are going through any pain right now. They are not. Even the atheist must agree, okay, those who have died are not going through any pain because the physical process has ceased. From our perspective, we will go further than that and say, actually, they're not going through pain, they're going through pleasure, in fact. And we make dua to Allah that He accepts them as the martyrs. Say Ameen. So when you consider it from that perspective, the whole thing changes, actually. Because Allah then has chosen them to be the highest grade martyrs, highest level worshippers. This is another perspective. You've got to think of it like that. It's a win situation for them. They won, actually. They won in dunya, they won in deen. And it's those who killed them in cold blood, who are going through PTSD, who have to wear nappies and diapers, who can't live with themselves, who feel sick when they look at themselves in the mirror, who can't justify it to them. They're trying their best to justify, but they can't. The guilt is killing them and eating them within. They are suffering more objectively than those they have killed, because those they have killed, from our perspective, are in Jannah, inshallah. Because someone will be tempted to ask, why is this evil happening? Why is this bad things happening? Why would Allah allow such a thing to happen? Well, that is only because you have a very materialistic view of things. But we have to see beyond the blood. And that is what is happening beyond the blood. So that's the first thing I wanted to say. Secondly, now, the question is, what do we do as Muslims? Because that was the question. What do we do when we're under pressure in this way? How do the Muslims react? So the first thing is the spiritual and theological component, which frankly is the most important thing. If we don't understand or can't comprehend or don't want to engage with the spiritual and theological component, then everything won't make sense. The world is a bloody mess. The whole world is a bloody mess. But if you have a certain worldview, you can make sense of the bloody mess. Why is this happening? Oh, it's because Allah is Al-Hakim. Allah is Al-Hakim. Hakim means wise. Wise means He does everything for a reason. أَفَحَسِبْتُمْ أَنَّمَا خَلَقْنَاكُمْ عَبَثًا وَأَنَّكُمْ إِلَيْنَا لَا تُرْجَعُونَ. It's a question Allah asks us. He says, do you think that we have created you aimlessly and you will not come back to us? Allah is asking this question. He doesn't do things, Allah doesn't do things aimlessly. If a child in Gaza has been killed by a missile, we as the Muslims believe that was the plan of Allah, and that child has something in store for him or her that is better for that child. We may not be able to understand that, But that is the case because Allah is Al-Hakim. And there's evidence of this. The evidence of the fact that as Allah is Al-Hakim is the fact that He proportioned everything in the skies. Look at the universe. It is filled with design. Are you telling me the same designer of the universe who allowed the universe to be regular and stable and uniform and complex and harmonious and has made it so that the smallest of atoms and the largest of celestial bodies are swimming in a particular and defined orbit, complicated orbit, and that every single atom and proton and electron in the universe has a purpose and a function, but that our tests in life are without purpose and function? That what you're going through in life, or what the Palestinians are going through in life, or whoever else is going through in life is without purpose and function? No, it's not the case. Allah is Al-Hakim. So the first thing is we must recognize the theological component. It gives you ultimate peace of mind. Secondly, we must counter the strategies of the colonists. Now, some time ago when I was reading a book, I don't know if you guys have read it, but it's now become, unfortunately, a classic. It's called The Clash of Civilizations. I don't know if you have heard of it. It's a man called Samuel P. Huntington. He wrote this. First, it was an article in 1998. It's become very famous, okay? And then he made it into a book. He died recently. I don't know when he died. But he basically divided the world into 7 civilizations. That's what he done. The world is divided into 7 civilizations. And his thesis is that in the future, what will happen is that people will clash on the basis of culture. And he said the major clashes will happen, one of the major clashes between the West, the Western civilization, and the Islamic civilization. And he had this big question mark on China and Russia. He said everyone else will basically fall in line into those. Like, for example, he had the Latin American whole area as a civilization itself. He had sub-Saharan Africa somehow into some kind of civilization by itself. It was very simplistic, but nevertheless, that's his thesis. And interestingly, this guy, along with Bernard Lewis, who was another Orientalist, they were Orientalists, effectively. They used to actually advise the government, the US government. They used to advise them. And in the end of his book, and I'll never forget reading this, in the end of his book, he said that what we must do basically is divide and conquer. Now, it sounds very straightforward. But this is the strategy and always has been the stratagem of the colonizer. Divide and conquer. And you all know this. And it's funny sometimes when we read the stories of Lawrence of Arabia. I don't know if you've heard of this guy. This guy who came and he tried in the Ottoman Empire, tried to break between the Arabs and the Turks and divide and conquer. And we think, how could these dupes, how could these naive people actually be duped into this? Now, unfortunately, the same thing is happening, but on different guys. Now they're funding religious movements, which I'm not going to mention the names because, you know, some of them, you know, gonna. But just for example, the Madkhalis, you know. I mean, those ones have to mention. I mean, and other ones. But I'll just mention that, just special mention. But I mean, some groups in the Muslim world funded by the colonizer. Okay, say some things, do something. And what the idea is to cause division. Now, if you have 2 billion people of anything, even 2 billion atheists, they're going to disagree. If you have 2 billion anything, they're going to disagree. وَلَا يَزَالُونَ مُخْتَلِفِينَ, as the Quran says. وَلِذَلِكَ خَلَقَهُمْ, actually. That everyone is differing. Allah says they continue differing. Everyone's continually differing. Now, the truth is, we're going to have differences. Okay. There's going to be people who follow this aqidah and that one aqidah and this one and this madhab and this one, whatever. Okay, we understand this. However, we have issues also. We have people being killed in Gaza. We have people in Rohingya. We have this one, that one. We need to defend ourselves. We can never defend ourselves if we're divided. And so it suits the colonizer, the Zionists, the hegemony, the American hegemony, the superpower for us to be divided. And say, well, we're not going to deal with these guys because they're completely different to us in aqidah and this one and that one and the other one. And whilst we're having these discussions, very interesting theological discussions about what Ibn Asakir said in the 11th century, huh? And now what this other guy responded to him, that the bombs are being dropped on us because we're stupid, we're foolish. Because this movement has been funded. Any divisive movement, any movement which tells you that you cannot cooperate with a fellow Muslim, that either has been explicitly funded or implicitly funded by the colonizer. Why? Because if I was a colonizer, I would fund it myself. Think about it. If we were in their position, put yourself in their position for a second. If you were an American colonizer, you want to see the world under your boot. You need the New World Order to stay as it is. You want to stay in control of the world without looking like you're in control. What would be the first thing you'd do? You'd create divisions. They've created ethnic divisions, tribal divisions, exacerbate the ethnic, the tribal, this, that, the other. I live in the United Kingdom, and we have a lot of Somalis now. It's the second biggest community of Muslims. Actually, them and the Bengalis are tied in demographics. And I was speaking to one of the brothers. Most of my good friends are Somalis. And I was just talking, his blah, blah, blah. And he opened the curtain of his thing, of his bedroom. He said, "You see that guy over there?" I said, "Yeah, I see him." He said, "That guy," he was another Somali, by the way, yes? He said, if I was in Somalia, I would kill him. That's what he said to me. And I just looked at him. I thought, is this guy being serious? I looked at his face. He was dead serious. He said, "This guy," I said, "Why?" He said, "He's from such and such tribe, and I would be, I said, "But this is haram." I said, "But the tribe," I had to discuss with him. The point I'm making to you is, who made these tribes in Somaliland and Somalia and this one and that and Indonesia and Malaysia? I would say, I love it, Malaysia and Indonesia and those countries, but where did these lines come from? Let's ask the question. Why are there straight lines on the map? How could this be that we become so gullible? You have in the UK and London, you have people fighting each other. Postcode wars, they call them. I don't know if you've heard of this. This guy, he lives in northwest London. And when I was a young guy, I used to live in northwest London, okay? Northwest London, we have postcodes, I don't know if you have postcodes in Kuala Lumpur, okay? Okay, and I was walking in the street one time, and there was a very vicious looking man. But I was in West London, which, by the way, now I live in West London. So anyway, this is something else. He said, "Where are you from?" And I knew that if I answered incorrectly, this could be the last thing I say. I said, "You asking me where I'm from?" And I was at the time about 12 or 13 years old. This guy was like 19. And I'm sure he had knives in his pockets. I said, "You're asking me? Have you seen me in this area all the time? I'm more West London than you knew." I was trying to convince him I'm West London. He's like, "Oh, good man." If I had said Northwest, maybe he would have killed me, this guy. How can we be so fooled and deceived into having division on the basis of postcodes? No, but it's true. And we are the same. We have this tribal in-group, out-group mentality. We need to see above and beyond that. As Muslims, we need to realize the Ummah comes first, because now a lot is at stake if we don't. It's a normal, natural human thing, by the way. But we need to be able to see beyond them, above and beyond that, because if we don't, people are going to die. People are going to die. And, the right wing, by the way, the right wing in England, I don't know if you've seen them, the far right, they're a little bit racist. They want us to go back to country and all this. Go back to your country. Have you seen them? Just a little bit. Very racist. Yeah, they tell us, go back to your country and stuff. 7% of the Muslim population is Muslim in the UK, for example, right? They say, go back to your country. And stuff like that. And I said, I was born here. They said, it doesn't matter, go back. It doesn't matter, go back. I said, go back to where? Go back to Egypt. Go back to anywhere you like. They say, no problem. I'll go back later. I'll just stay here for a while, okay? Let me just stay here for a while. But those guys, for example, they say, look, it's you guys come into our country. This is what they say. And you destroy our country. This is their argument. They say, you're here, black on black crime. Look at the Moroccans and the Algerians in France, such and such, whatever, whatever. Okay. I say, you have a point. I'm not going to lie to you. There's some issues. I can't lie to you. I personally believe most of these issues come from social social class, if I'm honest. If you're poor, you're more likely to do crime. And unfortunately, we have a lot of poor Muslims in this country. That's my explanation to it. But let me humor you for a second. Indulge me for a second. I said, you guys are talking about postcode wars and black on black crime. But there's nothing worse than white on white crime. So one of them said, what do you mean? Can you explain to me exactly what you mean? I said, in World War II, when you guys had nationalism, okay, you showed everyone how it's done. You killed each other en masse. 50 million of you died. It doesn't matter if the black on black crime continues at its present rate for the next 50 years, we will not be able to catch up with that. But it's true though, isn't it? And you see, everyone can suffer from it. There's no one immune from it. There's no one immune from the situation of tribes and nations and let's identify with this and that. So we have to deconstruct identities like nation, tribe, or anything else which we put above and beyond the Islamic identity. There was a guy who wrote a seerah of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and he's an American military strategist. His name is Russ Rogers. And he even admits that the thing which made Islam very successful is that it did away with the whole tribal dynamic. And it had this super tribe, he called it. Now, if we go back to this, how do we go back to this? Now, this is a secondary question. So we understand now, okay, we need to unite. How do we do it? There's a difference between unity and uniformity. I'm not saying everyone should believe in the same thing. Anyone who says everyone should believe in the same thing is an agent of division, because that's impossible. If someone says we have to believe in that everyone has to believe, yani, I hereby pronounce everyone must be Hanbali. That's it. Forget about Shafi'ism. We decided against, so to say. And if you don't do it, I'm going to label you and shame you and humiliate you. Okay, khalas, then you're an agent of what? Division. Or if someone comes and says, no, you have to be Shafi'i. Likewise with the Aqidah madhabs as well, to be honest. Someone says, no, it has to be this one, it has to be that one. No, let people have their differences. But when it comes to political and social matters, everyone must unite. This is number one. Number two is we must be able to have institutions with leaders, and then we have to also work with each other as different institutions. Now, it seems like a very basic point, but different institutions must learn, okay, let's work together. In the Islamic sphere, unfortunately, there is the KFC McDonald's approach. Now, I know both of them on the boycott list. I didn't know KFC was on the boycott list until I ate the Zinger burger. Someone told me, said, you know what is on the boycott list? I said, okay, tell me after the sex. So give me a second. Give me a second. Tell me this after this. And today I was eating a Subway and someone was saying, that's on the boycott list. I said, oh, astaghfirullah. Let me just quickly, I already bought it. But the KFC and McDonald's approach, okay, is everyone's competing with everyone else. The sheikh is competing with the other sheikh. The imam, the da'iyah is competing. It's the competition approach. But why should it be the KFC approach? Why doesn't it be the win-win approach? You can have your big building. I can have a big building as well. We can both have big building. And we can bring the buildings together. You know, everyone can, because once we start thinking about collaboration rather than always competition, competition can be healthy. But unhealthy competition is where the problem is. Unhealthy competition is where you try and degrade and diminish and abase someone else for your own gain. That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to always destroy the other person in order to prop yourself up. And that is a sign of fragility and insecurity. We see it among men, among women, it's not just an Islamic thing. I personally believe, like, someone will say, like, for example, a sheikh will come and say, you know, I'm only refuting this guy, because I know about all refutations. I've been doing it myself, so I say. I'm only refuting because it's the haqq. And I want to speak the haqq. الحق والحق. I believe that if these guys weren't Muslims, they'll be saying the same thing. Because I see it in every single industry. These people are abasing each other and attacking each other. Even I was looking at diets. I wanted to lose weight at one point. So I was looking at the ketogenic diet. I saw there was another diet. the paleo diet, and they're attacking each other. So this guy's a deviant. I actually heard one of them say he's a deviant. There was a doctor, he's online, a chiropractor or doctor, his name is Eric Berg. So I was watching his videos. He does like ketogenic and intermittent fasting. And then I saw some other guy refute him. He said, this man is unqualified and he's a deviant. Deviant, this is now, he's using religious terminology. Then even in like the weights industry, some guy was saying you should do deadlifts. And the other guy was saying, this guy who's telling us to do deadlifts, he wants us to die. He wants us to break our backs. He's trying to cause damage to us. So it's a part of human nature. Let's not disguise this. Let's not pretend that we're holier than thou and that, yes, we're doing it because of the truth. The truth is that a lot of people just are jealous. And it happens. Sisters will know as well. I'll give them 2 or 3 men examples. Let me give a couple of female examples. When all the sisters are sitting down now, yeah, and we're talking about fulana, such and such a person. Say, yeah, that woman there. Then everything opens up. And then you have the backbiting session. No, but we do it as well. We do it as well. Yeah, we do it on a more direct level. But it happens with the sisters as well. That's why Allah says what He makes special mention of Nisa. لا يسخر قوم من قوم عسى أن يكونوا خيرا منهم ولا نساء من نساء yeah عسى أن يكون خيرا منهن. Why does Allah mention Nisa min Nisa? There's a reason for it. Allah says, let not one group of people mock another group, yes, nor one group of women mock another. Yani. So this happens is across the board. We need to, and the reason for it is amrad al-qalb, which is the diseases of the heart. Diseases like jealousy and resentment. Which is why, subhanAllah, there's something beautiful in the Quran. Allah says, رَبَّنَا لَا تَجْعَلْ فِي قُلُوبِنَا غِلًّا لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. Do not leave, oh Allah, do not leave any ghil, resentment in our hearts to those who believe. So we all, in order for this to work, it's not just a strategic thing, it's a psycho-spiritual thing. We have to really work on ourselves to remove resentment and jealousy from our fellow brother and sister. That's why the Prophet said, لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يحب لأخيه ما يحب لنفسه. It's a very beautiful, basic but profound hadith that you don't truly believe until one of you wants for their brother what they want for themselves. If you see yourself every time your brother or your sister gets something good, you feel bad about it, there's something wrong with your iman. Your iman is not there yet. That's the truth, wallahi. And we know this. Some of us are Kani. I always test this. If you're with somebody, yeah, and you give them good news about yourself and they don't give you a good reaction, you got to be careful of this person. I have to be honest with you. I have to be honest with you. Say, for example, you just passed something, you passed your degree or something, and you're with your friends, and you say, yeah, I've just passed my degree. And then 2 of them are like, yeah, really good, yeah. And the other one's like, yeah. Some of them will go even further than I say, why do you always have to speak about yourself? What do you mean? Celebrate your wins with your believing brother or sister. Why are you always negative about their success? It's because you're jealous. Let's just go. Let's be honest about the situation. I'm very jealous. Because now you feel threatened by the person's achievements. You feel very threatened about it. I won't go further in this, but the idea is what? To remove the ghil and the resentment and the jealousy from the hearts of the believers. This is a very basic but very beautiful advice of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we said number 1 is to unify on the maslahah, on the common good. You don't have to be uniform, but you have to unify, right? And the other thing we said, number 2, is removal of the spiritual disease. We've already mentioned the theological base. And then the practical things we already know. That's number 3. The 3, whatever you can do. Yes. And it is actually good to know that whatever the colonist wants from you, that try and impose the opposite. Okay, I've spoken for some time. I want to open this up to questions and answers. I'll do that now. Jazakumullah khairan. Okay, yes. Where's the first question? How are you going to do it? Oh, do you want the mic? Yeah, so go ahead. Go.
Alhamdulillah. Let's take a moment to digest these funny and inspiring words from Brother Muhammad Hijab. And let's give him a few minutes to rest before the Q&A session begins.
Okay.
But first, we would like to display a promotional video by the Quran app and IET. Please enjoy the video.
I was born and raised in Kuwait, so I made a from this.
My name is Sarah. I'm from Thailand.
My name is Moshe.
We'll proceed with the Q&A session.
My name is Said Matri origin from Indonesia, Malaysia, Popular. And I was born and raised in Kuwait. So I made a from this. I am from Taiwan. That's not even from Popular.
Mariana, originally Sri Lanka. My name is Sarah. I'm from Thailand.